What happened to me, I don't regret it, not even for a second. I've already accepted it as a challenge that life threw my way. But make no mistake, just because I've accepted it doesn't mean I won't fight for my rights. Every day he wastes, every delay he creates, only give me more time to speak, to show the world who he really is, and to expose the truth. If he thinks I don't have a plan behind these posts and videos, he's mistaken. I've already mapped out my next steps. What I'm doing isn't out of bitterness. It's about accountability. My story is giving others a glimpse into how manipulators operate behind closed doors. While wearing a mask in public, he still has a choice to settle this quietly and fairly before things spiral out of control. If he thinks I'm bluffing, he should remember I've done everything I said I would. What's coming next won't be a warning, it will be action. The truth behind his lies. Why is he running? He always had an excuse, always a story, always a reason why things didn't add up. His mother once told me he offended people in Italy, but she never explained what really happened. He used to love Amsterdam. He would talk about it all the time. Then suddenly, he avoided it completely. His excuse? It's too cold. But was it really the weather? Or was there something he didn't want to face? When someone runs from a place they once loved, ask yourself, why? Then let's talk about Singapore. Here's what I believe. His history isn't clean. There are records somewhere in the countries he has visited. And the more you look into his past, the more things started to make sense. Why is he suddenly rushing to marry a Muslim woman? To change his name? To change his identity? To erase his past before anyone can dig up what he's running from? But here's the reality. No matter what name he takes, his past won't disappear. No matter how much he hides, the truth will catch up. No matter how fast he runs, he cannot escape what he has done. So I ask, what is he really afraid of? Is it his history in Italy? Is it something he did in Amsterdam? Or is it that he knows deep down that his past is catching up to him? He came only with 10K, but a full agenda. He said he had no stability, no income, just $10,000 in saving. So we opened our doors. My family gave him food, shelter, support, like one of our own. But now I see it clearly. He didn't come empty-handed. He came with a strategy. He wasn't just staying to survive. He was observing. He was studying me, my family, our habits, our trust. He was testing how easy we were to manipulate and control. He was checking how trusting I was and how compliant my family might be. This wasn't desperation. This was assessment. And his parents, they weren't clueless. They were complicit. They acted polite, grateful, and humble. But only until they no longer needed us. Their behavior wasn't out of kindness. It was calculated. If they were truly thankful, they would have stayed respectful even after they left. Instead, they vanished the moment he didn't need us anymore. They stood by him as he twisted the truth. They helped cover what he was really doing. This wasn't about love. It was about leverage. I wasn't his wife. I was a shield. My home wasn't a place of safety. It was a base to plan, assess, and act. And now they call us the problem. They paint us as the villains. But if they were innocent, why lie? Why vanish? Why hide money through shady accounts? Because people like this don't act like family. They act like operators. And that's exactly what they are. Then came the marriage and the setup. After we got married, we returned to Singapore during the COVID period. That's when everything started moving fast. We opened a joint account. I sponsored his LTVP, giving him legal standing in Singapore. He now had access to my name, my credibility, and my status. And that's when he made his move. A large fund transfer, quietly sent to a Caribbean island, a region known for offshore secrecy and laundering. And he did it through our joint account under my name. Why didn't he move the money while in Italy? Because Italy likely had restrictions or his finances were flagged. Singapore offered a clean front. With my name backing it, no one questioned a thing. This wasn't spontaneous, it was calculated. He didn't just use my kindness, he used my identity. He waited until the joint account was open, until I sponsored his LTVP, until he had full legal access through me. Then silently, he moved the money straight to the Caribbean through our joint account, protected by my legitimacy. This wasn't a mistake. It wasn't random. It was an operation. Financial manipulation, exploitation, and possibly money laundering or tax evasion. He waited for the perfect setup, and I became the shield. Why the need for private time with his mother? When his parents traveled together, whether it was in Singapore, Amsterdam, or elsewhere, it always seems like there was this odd need for him and his mother to have private time. Now keep in mind, this wasn't just once. They had plenty of opportunities to spend time together, whether in Singapore when they were traveling or even in private spaces during their stays. They could have had private conversations whenever they wanted. Yet there was this recurring need for privacy. Time where it was just the two of them, seemingly always when I was out of the pictures. But why? What were they discussing during these private moments? Why was it necessary to isolate themselves, especially when they already had ample chances to be together? Was there something they were hiding from me? The more I think about it, the more it seems deliberate. Perhaps it wasn't just about mother and son bonding. Maybe it was about coordinating plans behind closed doors. The bank account he opened was never just for money, it was for control. He opened a private bank account without telling me, not because we needed it, but because he needed it to hide. He moved money behind my back, large sums to the Caribbean. He used our joint account to make it look like we were financially united, then quietly funneled money into a private one to protect himself when things went south. This wasn't just about having his own space. It was a calculated move. Here's why. To gain full control, he needed financial independence to hide transactions, plan his exit, and shift money without my visibility. With a joint account, I could have seen what he was doing. A separate one kept his movements secret. To protect the money he moved, he transferred funds to the Caribbean, an offshore zone known for secrecy. Using a private account, he avoided alerting me or leaving a clear trail tied to my name. To stage a divorce escape, he was already preparing. That private account meant I couldn't freeze his assets. He could pretend the joint account had limited funds. He could claim he had no money while hiding large amounts. To control the narrative, he told a police officer I was financially reckless. That wasn't random, it was strategic. He wanted to paint me as unstable, while using the private account to look like the one who managed things. And let's not forget his threats about the house rent. The house was under my name, yet he constantly threatened to move out and let me bear the burden of that rent. He controlled how much went into our joint account to restrict me, pressure me, and punish me when I pushed back. This was financial abuse, classic control, classic gaslighting. What he might be planning now with that account. A man like this doesn't just hide money and walk away. That account might now be used to funnel money through fake business activities, move funds internationally, while pretending he's broke, finance a new life under a new identity. If he is already converting religion, changing his name, store funds he doesn't want the court or me to ever touch. He thought no one would notice. He thought I wouldn't piece it all together, but I did. And now that account might be funding a lie. This is the kind of person he really is. During the court case, when he realized I had too much evidence against him, he didn't fight fairly. Instead, he resorted to manipulation, exactly the way I described in my second video. When you share something vulnerable with him, he stores it, not to support you, but to weaponize it later. He waits until the moment it benefits him most. Then he strikes. That's exactly what he did with my brother. He sent a provoking message on Facebook, trying to bait him into physical confrontation. Why? Because if my brother hit him, he do get what he really wanted: legal leverage, a sympathy card to play in court, a story to shift blame away from himself. That's how he operates. He didn't want justice, he wanted control, and he was willing to do anything for it, even if it meant pushing someone to hit him, even if it meant pretending to be the victim again. And this isn't just a theory. Do you remember when he came back from Italy that time with a broken nose? He never told people what really happened. But this is what it was. Someone hit him. And instead of owning what led to that, he used the injury as a tool. He wanted people to see him as the one who suffered, not the one who provoked. He treats money like it's power. To him, having money means he can manipulate people, buy silence, or threaten legal actions. But the truth, he can't even fight properly, not emotionally, not legally. He can't win without tricks. Even in court, I was fighting alone. He had two lawyers, and still he tried to use emotional bait, manipulation, and tactics like this to get the upper hand. I have the evidence, the messages, the setup, the game he played with my brother. And this is just one of the many manipulations I've seen. And let's be clear, I have the evidence to prove all of this: the messages, the patterns. Even now, I'm sharing this calmly, not out of anger, but to show how calculated he really is. So if anyone's wondering why I don't trust him or how deep this goes, this is just one example. And no, this isn't something I created. This is the kind of person he has always been. You just don't see it until you become a threat to him. His friends may remember that broken nose, but now they finally understand what really happened. Because this is the truth. He never wanted anyone to know. He doesn't win by being honest. He wins by playing dirty. And now the mask is off. The second setup, how he tried to use Xanax to frame me. After realizing the court wasn't on his side, he pulled trick number two. He asked me to get Xanax for him. He messaged me during the court case, asked me to get Xanax for him, claimed the court stress was too much. But let's be honest, what was so stressful for him? He didn't have to file the case himself. He had legal support on every side. He had no real evidence against me, yet he still brought the fight. So why ask me to get the Xanax? Because it wasn't really about his stress. It was about creating a paper trail to make me look unstable. If I had gotten that prescription in my name, what would it look like on record? That I was the one with anxiety, that I was the unstable one, that he was the calm, reasonable one. It was a setup, and I knew it the moment he sent that message. I kept quiet for a year, and during that time, what did he and his parents tell everyone? That I was the problem, that I was difficult, that I was unstable. Did they tell you he tried to bait my brother into a fight? Did they tell you he threatened me with money and legal tricks? Did they tell you he asked me to get a psychiatric drug under my name? for his game. I have the proof, and I'm done being quiet. All I ever asked for was a fair settlement. That's it. But he couldn't even do that without scheming. And looking back at all the things I've revealed in my videos, the manipulation, the deception, the control. Ask yourself this: does this sound like someone who married for love? Or does this sound like someone who married for a reason? Because if this was real love, he wouldn't be playing all these games to win. He would be settling fairly. And he wouldn't be afraid of the truth. If he can't even settle fairly with his wife, how can anyone trust him in business? Let's get this straight. I didn't ask for revenge. I asked for fairness. I didn't play dirty. I went through court, brought evidence, gave him the chance to settle properly. And what did he do? Try to discredit me with lies. Try to make me look unstable with tricks like the Xanax setup. Try to provoke my family for leverage. Move money behind my back using my name, then ran. This isn't just about marriage anymore. It's about credibility. If this is how he handles a legal relationship, through manipulation, silence, and calculated trap, what would he do in business with partners, clients, or investors? Ask yourself, if he can't even treat his own wife with respect, how would he treat a business partner? If he uses deception to gain access and then disappear, would you want him handling your money or documents? If he hides behind lies to protect himself, what makes you think he won't do the same to you? The truth is, he shows one version of himself to the world. But the real story is in the evidence I have. The court has seen it. Others have started to see it. And now it's public. This is a man who had every opportunity to resolve things cleanly, but chose manipulation instead. If you still believe he is trustworthy, ask yourself, what kind of man needs to destroy his own wife just to protect his image? Now imagine how he do handle business deal, money or legal risk. If he can betray the one who stood by him, he can betray anyone. If he can't even handle a marriage honestly, how will he handle your business? Let me ask the people still supporting him. If he couldn't settle fairly with his own wife, if he uses lies, manipulation, and tricks in court, if he refused to take accountability, even when faced with evidence, then what makes you think he would treat you any better? Ask yourself, why won't he settle properly with the person he claimed to love? If he could exploit a marriage for gain, what might he do in business? How can you trust someone who goes silent when confronted with truth? You may believe his side. That's your right. But if you really want the truth, ask to see the evidence. I have it. It's documented. It's clear. Let him explain that. This isn't about revenge. It's about accountability. Because if this is how he handles people close to him, what does that say about how he handles the rest of you?